Renny Harlin of The Strangers, Chapter 1. Gentlemen, join me on stage. Courtney, Renny, your fans. Come on up. Here we go, guys. Have a seat, guys. Welcome. I tried to convince them to wear the creepy masks on the way up, but they wouldn't go for it. Welcome, gentlemen. Are you excited to finally talk about these movies that have been close to your heart for a while now? How are you feeling?
Super excited and super impressed that on a Thursday afternoon, this place is like full of people. Thank you so much for coming. It's awesome.
First of all, I alluded to this. Obviously, there's a lot of love for you guys. There's also a lot of love for The Strangers itself, the original film. Courtney, why do you think this concept works? Why is it worth revisiting and reimagining now?
Well, what interested me about it, and the story is a friend of mine called me up and said, I have the rights to be able to do Strangers movies. And so I was like, wow, The Strangers, I love The Strangers. That was like super terrifying for me. And what was terrifying about it was that it was real. It could touch any of us. It could happen in an apartment if you lived in the city here. It could happen at your house. It could happen, in a remote location. And it was just three people, for some unknown reason, even till today, that just showed up in these masks, terrorized these people, and killed them. And we read these stories all the time. And so it was just super terrifying. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. And so that's why I think, that, it's compelling and interesting, and why all these people and folks are here is because, it really touches you. And we all love the horror genre, I'm assuming, and the genre has so many subsects to it. And so sometimes you could go for a horror comedy, or sometimes you go for supernatural, or sometimes, something that's just got so much tension that it's just pounding on your chest the entire time, and other times good old fun old horror that's just like a fun old blast in the theater. But this one, really, I thought there was a greater opportunity, and that's what I think makes it special.
You can tell Renny is a consummate filmmaker because he's literally still shooting. He's shooting us for his own show right now. You guys are starring in Renny Harlin's reality show, whether you knew it or not. And you think I'm joking. We're not joking. No. Renny, look, we were talking backstage about a bunch of your work, including The Strangers. I've always been a fan of yours. For those that may or may not remember, some of your roots are in horror, actually. What's it like to go back to horror? Nightmare on Elm Street on the resume, of course, part 4.
Now I'm really gonna test if you are real horror aficionados. Is there anybody here who saw my first American movie, which is called Prison? Yeah. 7 people, awesome. Anyhow, that's how I started when I came to America. That was my first film. And by the way, starring Viggo Mortensen. I made his career, yeah. So, I really have to blame and credit my mom with my whole horror roots. She loved horror films, and she showed me Psycho when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
No kidding. And then when I was 8, I upgraded to Rosemary's Baby. So it's been all downhill since then. And so I just fell in love with horror for a lot of reasons. For the ability to tell stories that really affect people, and to tell stories in a very visual way. And that's really why I became a filmmaker. And I think that we basically go to the movies for a few very simple reasons. We go there to either laugh or cry or be scared, because we can live those emotions in the movie theater safely and then go back to our ordinary lives. So for me, it's just my favorite genre. And when Courtney sent me the script for The Strangers, I flipped out, because the original Strangers really is one of my favorite horror films ever. And the interesting thing about this script was that when I opened the file, it was 280 pages long. So I called Courtney and said, are you out of your mind? I did read it first. I read it and I couldn't put it down. It took only me about 9.5 hours to read it. And then he explained to me that you know, there was a plan to go much deeper than doing a reboot just of the original film, but something much bigger. And I said, I gotta make this movie. I love this movie, and I know why fans love this movie, and I want to do this so that it's for the fans and it's for the new generation, even if they haven't seen the original.
Let's tease the audience a little bit before we show some stuff. Let's set up a little bit of the characters we meet here, the setting we meet here. Courtney, there's a couple at the center of this. They're celebrating a bit of an anniversary. Are they doing all right? What do we need to know at the outset of The Strangers?
I mean, at the outset of the story, our couple, Ryan and Maya, who are really, you know, intended to be the Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler characters for our version of it, have a great life going on, you know. They are going, you know, cross country. She's going on a job interview in Portland to be an architect, and, you know, he's going with her. They come from the city, and they, you know, he's not so happy about, you know, potentially moving over to Portland, leaving the city. And, you know, they stop along the way for certain circumstances and end up spending the night in a town as they get closer to Portland. So everything's hunky-dory, you know, as it should be. You know, the interesting thing I'll say about this, just to give it some context, you know, we sort of looked at the original Strangers, obviously, in detail, and then, you know, we looked at the sequel, Pray for Night, as well. You know, and for us, you know, where Pray for Night was another Stranger's story, as often sequels are, and took place in a trailer park and had a different, you know, family and group. What we saw the opportunity to do was, you know, sort of reboot the original, make some changes that were necessary for us to end up with the 280-page script that Renny likes to quote me on all the time, seeing as they're usually like 95 or 100 pages. And to set it up the right way to tell a much bigger story, and then to ultimately answer, you know, a lot of questions and create some new ones. You know, that's where it all begins.
So it's one thing to talk about The Strangers. Should we show them some footage? I mean, they're here.
Do you want to say something?
So again, this is a gift just to you guys. Put your phones away. You're getting this is literally the first time anybody in public has seen any footage from The Strangers Part 1. You're going to see Maya here, played by the great Madeleine Petsch, who we're going to talk about very soon, getting a visitor. Probably a friendly visitor. Let's take a look.